Hello brothers and sisters, welcome to another episode here on Dangerous African Confessions HD. In this episode, we have a story from one of our sisters, who shares with us her journey into trying to find relief for her family, ended up selling her soul to the devil. She reveals in details to our amusement how she got into the dark world. This is another story of manipulation, control, and the emotional journey of a woman and her family who finds herself trapped in a dangerous web of these sinister pastors. Without taking much of your time, let us now go into what our sister has for us today. Please subscribe if you haven't done so, and also do like and share this video, so others out there can also benefit from this conversation. And also hit the notification bell, so you will be notified anytime we upload videos.
I want to start this whole conversation by first thanking you and your team for the kind of work you are doing. When we first met and I got a chance to know you, I have had the time to listen to some of the confessions you have on your platform. This is what encouraged me to open up to you about this whole thing. As you know, life often takes us down paths we never imagined. And I never thought I would find myself in a world of darkness, entangled in secrets and lies. Yet, here I am, sharing my story. It is not easy to admit to what I've done, but I want others to learn from my mistakes. I was born into poverty, the kind of poverty that gnaws at your spirit. Growing up, our meals were few and far between, and my dreams often felt like a cruel joke. I watched my parents struggle to make ends meet, their hope dwindling with every passing year. Yet, I carried a dream in my heart to break the cycle of suffering and give my family a better life. Tragedy struck when I lost my father to a sudden illness. His death left a void, not just in our hearts but in our finances. My mother did her best, but her strength was not enough to keep the family afloat. Soon, we were evicted from our home. Homeless and desperate, I vowed to do whatever it took to keep us alive. I worked menial jobs, but the money barely covered the essentials. One day, my younger brother fell gravely ill. We couldn't afford the medical bills, and watching him suffer broke something inside me. I was angry at life, at God, at myself for being powerless. In my despair, I searched for answers, for a way out of the misery. It was this time that I met the pastors who, instead of becoming a blessing to my life, became my misery. When my despair had reached its peak, I was sitting in a crowded marketplace, my heart heavy with the weight of my brother's worsening condition and the growing pile of unpaid bills. A flyer, bright and bold, was being distributed by a group of sharply dressed individuals. Their polished shoes and confident strides were in stark contrast to the chaos around them. It promised miraculous healings, financial abundance, and a path to freedom from life's hardships. On the back, there was an address for a large church hall in the wealthier part of town and a list of speakers, well-known prophets, whose faces I recognized from television programs and social media ads. I had seen their sermons before, dynamic performances filled with cheering crowds and tales of impossible transformations. Over the next few days, I kept encountering mentions of the event. Friends from my neighborhood spoke of miracles witnessed at their gatherings. An old acquaintance claimed her business had flourished after attending their anointing service. My curiosity outweighed my skepticism. Could this be the solution I desperately needed? With nothing left to lose, I decided to attend their next gathering. The church hall was nothing like the modest places of worship I had known in my life. It was enormous, with gleaming floors, luxurious seating, and state-of-the-art sound systems. A large stage dominated the front, draped in gold and white. The room was packed with people, some weeping, others singing praises, and many clutching items they hoped would be blessed. The service began with music that was both uplifting and hypnotic. The choir's harmonies filled the space, and the crowd swayed in unison. Soon, the pastors made their entrance. There were 5 of them, all dressed impeccably in tailored suits. Their presence was magnetic, commanding attention with every step. The lead pastor introduced himself with a booming voice that seemed to echo in my chest. He spoke of his own rise from poverty, claiming to have unlocked divine secrets that could break any curse and open doors to prosperity. Brother, his words resonated deeply with me. It was as though he was speaking directly to my soul. As the service continued, people were invited to share their testimonies. One by one, individuals came forward, recounting stories of miraculous turnarounds, deaths cancelled overnight, terminal illnesses cured, and barren women conceiving children. Each story stoked a fire of hope within me. At the end of the service, the pastors invited anyone seeking personal breakthroughs to come forward for prayer. My heart pounded with an urgency I couldn't ignore. When my turn came, the lead pastor placed his hand on my head and closed his eyes. After a moment, he began to speak, his voice low but commanding. He described my life with uncanny accuracy. My struggles, my fears, my desperate desire to save my brother was all said by the pastor. Honestly, that was my first time of experiencing such a thing. I was stunned. How could he know these things? This is not the life you were meant to live, he said. There is a power that can break every chain holding you back. But you must trust and take the first step. Brother, I remember at this very moment, I was in tears as he tells me all those things. The thing is that, for some reason, in the weeks that followed, I was invited to attend smaller, exclusive meetings held at the pastor's private estate. I attended their gatherings regularly. They offered me comfort, hope, and a sense of belonging I hadn't felt in years. They again brought the promise that if I joined their inner circle and participated in a sacred ritual, my life would change forever. My brother would be healed, my finances would improve, and the burden I carried would be lifted. These gatherings were a stark contrast to the public services, intimate and mysterious. The attendees were a select group, all seeking breakthroughs in their lives. During these sessions, the pastors began to introduce deeper teachings. They spoke of spiritual warfare and the need to sever ties with forces of evil that were supposedly blocking blessings. They claimed that my suffering was the result of unseen enemies, jealous individuals, generational curses, and malicious spirits. They promised me that a sacred initiation could cleanse my spirit and align me with divine favor. It was a ritual, they explained, designed to unlock heavenly blessings and shield me from harm. Honestly, at first, I hesitated, but they reassured me with stories of others who had undergone the process and found miraculous success. The lead pastor, sensing the fact that I had doubts, leaned in and spoke with a gentle intensity. He told me that I have already suffered so much. Why should I continue to carry this burden when the answer is right here? He asked me to trust them, and I will see the hand of God move in my life. Desperate and overwhelmed, I agreed. The ritual was scheduled for the following week. The ritual was set to take place at a secluded mansion far from the city. Nestled deep within a dense forest, the estate exuded an air of eerie grandeur. Its towering gates, adorned with intricate symbols, opened into a sprawling property bathed in dim, artificial light. The atmosphere was heavy with secrecy and power, as if the very ground pulsed with an unseen energy. When I arrived that day, I was escorted inside by two attendants dressed in black robes. The mansion's interior was lavish but unsettling, walls adorned with strange sigils, statues of ominous figures, and candlelight casting flickering shadows. The air was thick with incense, a heady blend of spices and something metallic that made my head spin. But because of the promises given me, I still stayed and waited for the commencement of the rituals. The initiation chamber was a vast hall in the basement, its walls covered in dark drapes and symbols painted in crimson. A large circular diagram was drawn on the floor, etched with ancient markings that glowed faintly in the dim light. At the center was an altar, draped in black cloth, upon which lay objects I honestly couldn't identify, vials of thick red liquid, and a dagger with an ornate hilt. The pastors, now dressed in ceremonial robes embroidered with gold and crimson, stood in a semicircle around the altar. They welcomed me with smiles that failed to mask their intensity, their eyes glinting with something I couldn't quite place, anticipation or something darker. The first part of the initiation was meant to purify my spirit. I was instructed to kneel within the circle while the pastors prayed in a language I didn't recognize. Their voices rose and fell in rhythmic waves, creating an otherworldly hum that seemed to vibrate through my body. A bowl of water mixed with herbs and oils was poured over my head as they declared I was cleansed of my past failures and struggles. They told me that this was a symbolic act of washing away the chains of my old life to prepare me for the power I was about to receive. The next thing was that I was handed a candle and instructed to walk around the circle 3 times, chanting words they whispered to me. With each step, I felt a growing unease, as though the air itself was pressing against me. The third ritual was far more unsettling. They presented me with a small animal, a black bird, and placed it in my hands. The lead pastor told me that it was the final sacrifice of my old self. I was told to end the bird's life as an offering to the spirit that would grant me the blessings I sought. I performed the act just as I was instructed. The pastors took the bird's blood and smeared it across my forehead, chanting louder and faster. My brother, after the rituals, the atmosphere in the room shifted. The temperature dropped noticeably, and the faint glow of the symbols on the floor grew brighter. The pastors stepped back. This time, they formed a circle around me, as the lead pastor approached the altar and raised the ornate dagger. He began to invoke the spirit by name, calling it forth to accept this worthy vessel. The candles flickered violently, and an unnatural wind swept through the room despite there being no windows. Honestly, at this time I was afraid. I felt an overwhelming presence, as though something immense and ancient had entered the space. Suddenly, the light dimmed, and I saw a figure materialize in the shadows. You see, the moment I saw the figure, all the pastors came close to me said I shouldn't worry, because it was not going to harm me. I can tell you that, it was a being unlike anything I had ever seen, tall and shrouded in darkness, its features indistinct but radiating an aura of both power and menace. Its eyes burned like embers, and its voice, when it spoke, was deep and resonant, reverberating through my very being. Yes, the spirit spoke to me. I heard its voice clear. The spirit said to me that it knows I seek power and freedom. And it assured me that it can give me all that and more. But there is a price. I was told to kneel before the spirit and repeat a series of vows, pledging my loyalty and surrendering myself in exchange for the blessings I desired. As I spoke the final words, I felt an intense heat wash over me, followed by a chilling cold. You see this mark on my wrist? I got it that night. Yes, I mean it. You see, the spirit extended a hand, and I felt a searing pain as a mark appeared on my wrist, a symbol that would forever bind me to the pact. You see, it was after my rituals that I started seeing a lot of the ladies who have been through these same rituals. Because I kept on seeing them with this same mark that was on my hand on them as well. No wonder they were driving in big cars and showing off in those ways. Do you know, my brother, that a lot of women or ladies out there are married to spirits from different dark worlds? These young ladies driving in big cars are doing things behind the scenes that no one can see. Had it not been for the fact that I got myself involved in such things, I wouldn't have known any of these things. They will come on television and social media talking about how they climbed the ladder from humble beginnings. But deep down within them, they know it is not the truth. You see, the pastors explained that my pact was not merely a transaction, it was a marriage. The spirit had chosen me as its bride, claiming me as its own. From that moment on, I would carry its mark, and my life would be intertwined with its will. At first, I thought little of this declaration, assuming it was symbolic. But in the weeks and months that followed, I began to notice its effects. No man who came close to me, whether romantically or platonically, remained unscathed. That is why some people, if they can attest to what I am saying, when they get close to certain ladies, they will start to see strange things begin to happen in their lives. Be it monetary issues, business, and even sometimes health issues. I have had such a bitter experience, and I know how it works and what it feels. The first man was a kind man who had shown interest in me. Within days of expressing his feelings, he was involved in a freak accident that left him hospitalized. The second was a childhood friend who tried to rekindle our connection. His business suddenly collapsed, leaving him bankrupt. Every relationship I attempted was met with disaster. It was as though an invisible force punished anyone who got too close. That was when I realized the spirit's marriage was not a metaphor, it was a possessive bond that allowed no rivals. The most painful aspect of this whole thing I have been through, and what I brought upon myself, was that my brother's health, which I had hoped to save, only worsened. And even the money I was promised never came. Instead, my life spiraled further into chaos, my nights plagued by nightmares and my days filled with a growing paranoia. I couldn't tell anyone about what was happening to me. The pastors, who had once seemed so warm and supportive, became distant. When I sought their help, they dismissed my concerns anytime I go to them, telling me to trust the process. It was then that I realized that I had been deceived, my suffering a mere byproduct of their greed and manipulation. I became paranoid, unable to trust anyone. My family noticed the change in me, but I couldn't tell them the truth. I was trapped, bound by fear and the shame of what I had done. You see, my brother, the breaking point came when I narrowly escaped a car accident. As the vehicle skidded off the road, I saw my life flash before my eyes. I realized I didn't want to die this way, lost, alone, and consumed by darkness. It dawned on me that I could die anytime, and knowing very well that I was not in a good place to die, I sought help. It wasn't easy, the guilt and fear weighed heavily on me. I reached out to an old friend, someone I had pushed away during my descent into darkness. To my surprise, she welcomed me with open arms and introduced me to a woman counselor who specialized in spiritual recovery. The process was excruciating. I had to confront my actions, admit my mistakes, and seek forgiveness, from myself, from God, and from those I had hurt. There were days when I felt like giving up, but I held on to the hope of a better future. Gradually, the nightmares faded, and the heaviness lifted. Today, I am telling you my story about my journey through darkness. It has taught me the importance of discernment and the dangers of desperation. I share my story not to seek sympathy but to warn anyone who might hear this. Please never trust any man born of a woman. You might be doing so, at your own risk. I may have been given a second chance to life, but no one knows what may befall you. So please be wise and smart as well. If you find yourself at the edge, tempted by promises that seem too good to be true, remember this: there is always another way. Seek the light, even when it feels out of reach. You are stronger than the darkness, and your worth is not defined by your struggles. Thank you for your time.
Don't forget to please subscribe, share and like our videos. Kindly hit the notification bell so you will be the first to get notification to our videos when we upload. I want to start by saying that faith is a beautiful thing. It can lift us up in our darkest moments and guide us when we feel lost. But faith, when placed in the wrong hands, can also be a weapon that can destroy us. Like I always say, we don't do this work to condemn the church or to tell you not to believe in the church. All that we want you to know is to be careful. Be vigilant. Not everyone who stands behind a pulpit is a servant of God. Not everyone who calls themselves a prophet or a pastor is truly anointed. They only use the name of God and the Bible to manipulate, to control, and to take. They preach about blessings while living in luxury built on the sacrifices of people like you and I. Just like I always say is that, my heart aches for those who place their trust in men, believing they are receiving blessings from above when, in truth, they are entangled in a web of darkness. I hope that this will be a lesson etched in the hearts of those who dare to tread the fine line between faith and fanaticism. Stay safe. Stay vigilant. And always question the source of power before you place your trust in it. This platform is for us to learn that not everything that claims to be light is light. Be careful where you place your trust. And also seek to associate yourself with genuine people of light. If you've ever been in a similar situation, or if you feel something's not right in your church or community, leave a comment below. Let's talk about it. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe for more true stories, because sometimes, the scariest things aren't the ones we see, they're the ones we don't.